Hello, friends. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Masters Initial Research Show. That's right, it is the first major of the PGA Tour season, arguably the most exciting week in golf, and we are here to cover every bit of it that we can. Hopefully you had a very successful Valero Texas Open, which leads me to the two shout-outs that I have to give for this week. First off, to my friend Dave for hitting a top 10 on Ben Martin. So congratulations, Dave, on that hit. But the big winner in the community this week is none other than Darnell. Darnell, who plays over at Super Draft, took down an entire contest with the same lineup 3 times. That's right, a 3-time winner over at Super Draft. So congratulations, Darnell, on a monster week in terms of DFS. And don't forget, if you won, please reach out to me in chat, in the comments, or on social media. I would love to be able to shout out members of the community that succeed just like Dave and Darnell have this week. So they are in great position to expand on their bankroll coming up for the Masters. For yours truly, a pretty successful week. I hope you followed in my footsteps in avoiding Davis Riley, who I cautioned on Wednesday night. Hope you followed me on my gut feeling on the 6K playing Andrew Novak, who had a very successful Valero Texas Open. Now, didn't come without any poor choices or poor suggestions. Eric Van Rooyen certainly played very, very poorly. That was a terrible suggestion. A couple others, but overall a very positive Valero Texas Open, and we are moving into the Masters. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter gambler and a much better DFS player. Go check them out. It is well worth your investment, especially on a week where a whole lot of the quote casuals crowd. So if you want a big advantage, you need a very powerful tool at your hands, and that is what Fantasy National would allow you to have. So go check them out. I can't put enough praise into the work that Moose and the Fantasy National team do week after week. There's a lot of great tools out there, but I simply believe Fantasy National is the best. In the description to the video and the show, there are links to all of my social media. This is Twitter and Instagram, where Twitter and Instagram I will put out research throughout the week for the golf tournament that is happening in the week. So for this week, obviously, I will have some Masters research out for you all. Gonna have that, try to have that done tomorrow. But I've also been doing some baseball over on Twitter. I've been doing a pretty, for me, unique little setup or whatever, a daily 3 up, 3 down. In terms for DFS, 3 players that I think will obtain their value in pricing and have a good DFS day. 3 down, literally the opposite. Been very, very mixed so far. I've been very good at one of those 2 categories. So if you're interested in any of the research that I do, give me a follow over at Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is also where I post my betting cards week after week for the PGA Tour. That will be no different for this week, as I will have my betting card for the Masters out Wednesday evening after the DFS Tactics show. So if you want to see my betting card week after week, give me a follow over there. And then the link to my Twitch channel is also in the description. This is where I do all of my in-depth research for golf and for baseball. So if you want to really dig into the numbers, you want to see the process on how I create my mixed condition models, or how I evaluate my performance week after week with lineups for golf. It's much more laid back, music going on in the background. So if you're interested in a whole lot of the inner workings, if you will, of the research, give me a follow over at Twitch, which reminds me, we will be live tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern for all of the Masters research and for baseball. And I'm going to attempt to do that daily for at least baseball for the daily 3 up, 3 down that I will put out on Twitter. But the link to my Twitch channel is below if you're interested in that content. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. Again, how did you do this past week at the Valero? How much success did you have? Who did you play? Did you end up betting Corey Connors? He was the favorite. He was number 1 in my rankings. He was pretty chalky for good reason, but a very successful performance, all that stuff. What are you looking forward to for the Masters? Who are you keyed in on early? What statistics do you think we should focus on this week for Augusta National? All of that good stuff. So, it's a tradition unlike any other. Let's do our initial research for the 2023 Masters. And we're going to start over at the GCSAA Tournament Fact Sheet, as we always do on a Sunday evening. We are at Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. It is a par 72 that measures to 7,545 yards. So we have a lot of long course metrics that we can look at this week for Augusta National. Green size actually a little bit larger than the average tour green size. It's about 6,500 square feet here versus about 6,000 or so average on the PGA Tour. A whole lot of fairway, 79 acres of fairway, not a lot of rough. Basically, if you are not in the fairway, you can quickly find the pine straw that is so prevalent around Augusta National. 5 holes with water in play. The greens are bent, and this is one of the first tournaments, if not the first tournament of the calendar year that we are going to be looking at bent grass. So we are no longer on Poa Trivialis. So a whole new set of putting metrics to look at, and perhaps some new putters to focus on since we are on bent. Now the stimp is not listed. These are notoriously some of the fastest greens on tour, so we're going to be looking at fast and lightning speed bent greens. The fairways are rye. The second cut is rye as well, and then you quickly get into the pine straw. Nothing to do with architect. Most famously, architect of Augusta National, Dr. Alistair McKenzie and Bobby Jones. So that is a look at Augusta National in terms of a GCSA tournament fact sheet. Long course, larger than average greens, but nothing extraordinary, and very, very, very fast lightning bent greens. So we move to Fantasy National, and before I forget, there has been one field change in the week so far. That is Aaron Wise. He has withdrawn due to or citing mental health. So we are, I believe, at 88 players, as Aaron Wise has withdrawn. 88 players this week at Augusta National. You see, I don't have any filters on. I've just got this set for the beginning of the calendar year. I want to see who has been playing the best golf as of late. So your best players since the start of the calendar year, this calendar year, in the field this week for the Masters. You have John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Jason Day, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, Tony Finau, Xander Schauffele, Chris Kirk, Patrick Cantlay, Sung Jae, Tyrrell Hatton, and Keith Mitchell. So there's your top 12 due to ties in terms of total performance on the PGA Tour so far since the calendar year has turned to 2023, or the calendar has turned to 2023. But we just saw on the GCSA Tournament Fact Sheet, Augusta National is close to 7,600 yards. So we are going to look at some long course metrics, and because of that, I'm going to expand the timeline and go all the way back to January 1st of 2021, get enough rounds for everybody in the field this week. So your top performers on long courses in the field this week for the Masters: John Rahm Rory, Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, Will Zalatoris, Corey Connors, Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, Chris Kirk, and Cam Smith. That's right. The LIV players are or have been allowed, I suppose, into all 4 of the majors this year. So we will be getting a lot of new data on, say, Cameron Smith and Joaquin Niemann. Let's see, others, Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson and all of them. Now, they have not played on the PGA Tour since the Open Championship, so all of their data is going to be quite a bit historical, at least in comparison to everybody else in the field, say a John Rahm, a Scotty Scheffler, Will Zalatoris, who's still on the PGA Tour, DJ and Brooks and Bryson and all of them. They won't have statistics from the Open Championship forward. Maybe in terms or in Cam Smith's case, since the Tour Championship forward. But the LIV guys are here, so do make note of that. I believe that's all I want to cover in terms of totality right now. Let's move on over to the course breakdown on Fantasy National. And first thing I like to do when looking at a course is try to determine where par is. Well, the 9th and 10th most difficult holes here are still a fair bit over par. The 12th is still a 10th over par. You have to come to the 14th most difficult or the 5th easiest hole, the 3rd, before you find par. So that would tell you that the course would generally be difficult. And I am here to tell you the course is rather difficult. Augusta National always sets it up that way. They want a difficult course, a fair golf course, but a difficult golf course. Now, there are decent opportunities to score here. You've got the par 5 second, plays to 3/10 under par. You even have a couple of decent eagle chances. The par 5s on the back, 12th and the 13th and the 15th. A little bit more than 3% eagle chance and a little bit more than 2.5% eagle chance. So a couple of decent eagle chances. I mean, even the second yields an eagle about 1.5%. It's not a high number, but certainly more than what we saw at the Valero. But the contrast to that is you have so many difficult holes here at Augusta National where bogey but sometimes bogey is unavoidable. You have a hole, the par 4 11th, plays to 4/10 over par. You have a quarter of a shot, the 18th, quarter of a shot, 3/10. Just many challenging holes here at Augusta National. And the length of the course comes in some of these par 3s. You've got a 240-yard par 3, 180, not terribly long, 155, extremely short, 170. I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of times this 180 will stretch. But that 240, very, very difficult, very long. And you've got a few long par 4s as well, 520. Where did it go? Par 4, so you have 495, very long, 495, 520, 465, but plays all uphill. Just a very, very long golf course. Moving to average strokes gained by hole by par, you see for the players that finish in the top 10, fairly balanced, although par 5s, as you would naturally think, are leading in terms of strokes gained. Moving up the leaderboard to the top 5s, you see the par 5s kind of distance themselves from the other two, but still a fairly equal distant in terms of in relation to each other from the top 10s, except for maybe the par 5s. They do gain a little bit in terms of importance, and then for your winners, The par fours are going to be a pretty big factor, especially the long par fours, where if you're able to get par on the 11th, on the 18th, on the 10th, you're going to be making up some ground. So not to say that the par threes aren't important. They are. But the par fours really skyrocket in terms of importance for the winners. But the par fives are consistently the most important hole by par here at Augusta National. Hole composition, 2 short par threes, 150 to 175. You have the 180, which will stretch most of the time closer to 200, and then 225 plus. You do have a short par 4 from 350 to 4. Majority of your par 4s here at Augusta National come from 450 to 5. You do have one very long, the most difficult hole on the course, the 11th, par 4, 520 yards there. And then 3 of the 4 par 5s measure from 550 to 600. Scoring distribution. Well, the bogeys, you're at 20%. You're at 16.5% for birdies. So already you're over par. You've got a pretty sizable bar here for the doubles. And the eagles is rather non-existent. So a lot more scores over par than under par here at Augusta National. This course is difficult. And the scoring there backs it up. Historic cut line. It has gotten lower recently, although it did take a spike or jump last year to +5. Lowest we have +1 in 2021. It's made it all the way up to +9 way back in the 2000 aughts. Roughly in the +4 area, hovering between maybe +6 and +3, but generally, wow, I can't talk, around the +4 area is where the cut line sits. Driving accuracy, we saw in the GCSA tournament fact sheet, a lot of fairway here. And players know that fairways are pretty premium here at Augusta National. So they are going to try and be a little bit more selective, but a lot higher accuracy here than the average tour event. Green and regulation percentage, on the other hand, much lower than the average tour event. A combination of just difficulty of course, length of course, and these greens are very, very undulating, very fast, so it can be difficult to hold the green here on approach shot. James, evening. Thanks for jumping in chat. It's good to see you again. No, we touched base a little bit this past weekend on social media, but glad you are able to make it into chat. Hopefully you had a very good Valero Texas Open if you played, and if not, you are ready for the tradition unlike any other. But thanks for jumping in chat. So yeah, greens and scrambling, much more difficult here than at the average tour event. So immediately going to be looking at 2 metrics here that jump out in terms of importance. Ready for the Masters? Absolutely. Coming off a fairly successful Valero in my own regard, have a little bit of bankroll to play with. So yeah, but we're gonna be trying to narrow down this 88 person field and find out who we're wanting to play. Which since you just jumped into chat, Aaron Wise has been the only withdrawal or field change that I have seen. He cited mental health issues or mental health reasoning for withdrawing from the Masters. So the field is down to 88. And then 3 putts. This is something we are absolutely going to want to focus on this week. 3 putts per round. Almost 1 per round. You're at 9.9 3 putts per round here at Augusta National. The average tour event is just over 50%. Again, these greens are lightning fast, very undulating, very tricky to read. 3 putts is going to be something we are going to want to put a lot of emphasis in, or at least explore heavily this week. So there's a look at the course from a scorecard and a graphical view. Before we go back to the player page view, let's take a look quickly at the historic conditions. Now, every round from 2018 back was listed as easy. And I don't know if I agree with that in terms of scoring. I don't know how Fantasy National sets up their scoring parameters, if you will. But you will see from 2018, essentially rounds 1, 2, and 3, and all of 2019 forward, there has not been an easy round at all. Most of them have been difficult, including last year, every single round being difficult. The course has always been over 7,400 yards, so we will absolutely be looking at long course metrics throughout the week. Hitting fairways can be challenging, I suppose, at times. We will definitely look at some wind starting tomorrow. You see, the one time we've gotten green speeds has been lightning, so might honestly be accurate not even to look at fast, but just lightning bent greens. Evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. If you missed the intro, you missed the shout out that you had, but again, congratulations on taking down an entire contest over at Super Draft. So very, very well done. You are the big winner of the community this week. And again, a very, very sincere, heartfelt congratulations. A big hit for you heading into the Masters. So yeah, there's a look at the historical tournament conditions at the Masters. Now we'll go back to the player page view. We have long courses on right now. I do want to get a sense of, again, who's been playing fairly well extremely recently. So I'm going to bring this timeline back into the beginning of 2023. Going to look at a couple of different things here. Strokes gained approach and around the green. And we will definitely be looking at scrambling, as we saw scrambling is very difficult here. So your top strokes gained approach players in the field for the Masters this week. Since the start of this calendar year, those top strokes gained approach players have been Tom Hoge, Max Homa, Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, Tony Finau, John Rahm, Tyrrell Hatton, Xander Schauffele, Rory, and Victor Hovland. And then for around the green, I apologize. There's only one player that's top 10 in terms of around the green approach and around the green. That is Scotty Scheffler. Your top 10 strokes gained around the green players in that same time frame: Justin Thomas, Jason Day, Hideki, who had a very good Valero, much to my surprise, to be honest with you. I was completely off of Hideki last week, but he played well. Tommy Fleetwood, Danny Willett, Jordan Spieth, Chris Kirk, Sung Jae, Scotty Scheffler, K.H. Lee, and Matt Fitzpatrick. I think let's go ahead and go all the way back to the beginning of 2021. I am going to want to look at some bent green performance, and you can argue whatever. You can argue if we should include the fast filter or not, but I am actually just going to check lightning, and in fact, there are so few tournaments with lightning speed bent greens. It's just the Memorial, the Masters. We're going to have to back this out. Let's go all the way back to 2018. That's the kind of the 5-year cutoff of statistics that I grab. And let's see, Xander. Let's see some of these other tournaments we might have. So the Zozo. Okay, the CJ Cup when it was played at the Summit Club. Or no, is that Shadow Creek? I think that might be Shadow Creek. And then some various majors. The Farmers is definitely not bent. Oh, okay. I apologize. In 2020, the North Course is bent. So, okay. So, yes. Let's take a look at a lot of historical, again, just lightning speed bent greens. I don't think these greens are going to be labeled as fast. They're generally lightning speed. They're generally some of the fastest, if not the fastest, on tour. So in the past 5 years, your top putters on lightning bent greens have been Bryson DeChambeau, Harris English, Jason Kokrak, Justin Rose, Patrick Reed, Tom Hoge, Taylor Gooch, Danny Willett, Siwoo Kim, and Sepp Straka as your top putters on lightning bent greens. You see that I'm going to be using the DraftKings page view. Not going to fight it since those prices have been out for a couple days now. So we'll have that information, or I'll have that information for you all week. I do want to look at maybe one or two more metrics, but I don't want to get carried away. There's still plenty in Microsoft Excel that I want to show. So one of the first things that I would like to do, let's see. In fact, because we have the 2018 timeline still there, I'm looking for bent. No, lightning. There we go. Let's go straight or jump to 3-putt avoidance. We saw that 3-putt avoidance or 3 putts are just very, very common here at Augusta National. So in terms of 3-putt avoidance, and lag putting is certainly a skill, and it's a skill needed at Augusta National, your top 3-putt avoiders in the past 5 years on lightning bent greens have been Tony Finau, Jason Day, Alex Noren, Mac Hughes, Patrick Reed, Harris English, Billy Horschel, Terrell Hatton, Jordan Spieth, and Cam Smith. Playing Siwoo Kim on my single bullet. Okay, I don't have any strong feelings early on this week as far as players for or against. I'll be getting into heavy research starting tomorrow. Okay, yeah, I mean he's in great form. He had a fairly successful Valero. It wasn't the best, but a fairly successful one. Made the cut. Now his putting, top 40 on the Valero. His putting has been pretty bad on bent, generally speaking. Although it's not his worst surface, it's actually his best surface. But at least in relation to others in the field, where did Siwoo go? He is right here. So total 9th, but 3-putt avoidance is an issue. Okay, so I was a little bit misspeaking. His total performance putting. Okay, yeah. Like I said, I don't have a solid gauge on anybody for or against at the moment. He's in, again, just fine form. Nothing spectacular other than his win at the Sony, but a win, a top 25 at the American Express, he top 25 the Farmers, top 25 the Waste Management, which is a premier event or designated event. So I mean, he's been playing against the top competition and performing well. Yeah, he's just in fine form. But there's a look at your top 3-putt avoiders on lightning bent greens, and 3-putt avoidance is going to be a big factor this week. Something else that I definitely want to look at, let's take a look at some scrambling. And let's see, that's under fairways and greens. We'll go ahead and do the difficult scoring relative to par. I'm not terribly confident that we're going to use that filter or end up using that filter when we get to our mixed condition model come Wednesday night. But for the start, it'll at least give us an idea when when a round is difficult, who can scramble. We might look at on long courses. We could look at around the green when it's difficult. You can do a very mixed things with scrambling, but I do want to look at some scrambling here. Siwoo struggled with putting this weekend, had him in multiple lineups. He disappointed, still had a positive week despite him. Hey, AJ, thanks for jumping in chat. Yeah, I mean, he top 40'd. It wasn't a terrible performance, but he was so chalky that you were going to have to he was going to have to either, top 5, top 10, or you needed to pick your unique players around him, say a Sam Stevens, to really perform well. And I don't remember seeing you last week in chat. I was very, very high on Sam Stevens. That worked out. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit here and say everything was great. I also recommended very, very highly to play Eric Van Rooyen, and that worked out fantastic. So, but I was very high on Sam Stevens. I was very high on Andrew Novak at 6,700 over on DraftKings. With Siwoo and Connors and Kirk and all the chalk that was going around last week, it was one of those DFS slates you really needed to find your uniqueness. He gets close to even with his Flair top 10. Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, again, he's been in fine form. We just got through looking at it. As far as the long putter, I think that's he's probably been better with that long putter, I think. But, I don't usually watch every single shot, so I mean, I don't even know when he went to the long putter, to be honest with you. If you all know, then we can, objectively kind of look at it when he went to the long putter, because, he was field average at the Valero. He was field average at the Arnold Palmer. But again, the Arnold Palmer lightning speed greens. The players can get lightning speed greens. So that does give me a little bit of pause on Siwoo. He seems to be better on some slow, not necessarily slow greens, but slower. I have not received mine, AJ. Speaking to the delay in contest winnings, I've not received mine, but that is not necessarily something new. But anyway, I do want to look at some scrambling. So, your top scramblers since the beginning of 2022, when a round's been difficult, those players are Matt Fitzpatrick, Sung Jae, Tommy Fleetwood, Jason Day, Billy Horschel, Rory, Shane Lowry, Abraham Answer, Francesco Molinari, and Sam Burns. Again, skipping Aaron Wise for anybody who has not seen. Aaron Wise has withdrawn from this year's Masters, citing mental health. So we are down to 88 players in the field this week. With that, I think that's going to be all in terms of statistics that I want to look at tonight, specifically at Fantasy National, and I'll keep this up. Generally, we go to the tournament history tab and take a look at who has played this event the best in the past 5 years, and we will obviously do that again. I don't want to spend too much time here, though, because there's a lot in Microsoft Excel that I would like to show you. Evening, Joanne. Sorry, I must have skipped over your intro. Good evening. Hopefully you had a very good Valero Texas Open. You're ready for some Masters this week. So thanks for jumping in chat. And again, apologies for missing that the first time through. So in the past 5 iterations, and again, this is going to include the fall Masters from 2020. I don't like doing that, but it is what it is, at least here in terms of Fantasy National. Now, I did not include it when we go to Microsoft Excel, so this will be a tad bit different going from Fantasy National to Microsoft Excel. Be a tad bit different, but generally speaking, your best performers in the past 4 to 5 years here at Augusta National: John Rahm, DJ, Cameron Smith, who's had 4 top 10s and 3 top 5s, JT, nothing outside of a T21. You're defending the champion, of course, Scotty Scheffler, a winner, and then 2 other top 20s. Hideki, your winner in the spring of 2021. Let's see. We had Tiger, 2019. 2018 was Patrick Reed. So yeah, I mean, there's a look at some of your best performers here at the Masters. Corey Connors has been very good, and again, of course, coming off the win this past week. Spieth's been very good, although he missed the cut last year. Xander's generally been very, very good here, although he missed the cut last year. So there's your top performers in the past 4 to 5 years here at Augusta National. The other end of the spectrum, gosh dang it, other end of the spectrum, players that haven't been good. I'm going to skip the lifelong or lifetime members since they are winners. Billy Horschel has not been very good here. He's made the cut the last 4 years, but nothing inspiring in terms of finishes. Terrell Hatton has not been very good here. Alex Noren has not been here in 3 years, but 1 for 2 in the years that we've captured. Sergio, since his win, has been pretty darn bad here at Augusta National. Max Homa is only 1 for 3. Gary Woodland, 2 for 5. Adam Scott, he's negative. He's 5 for 5 in making the cut, but still negative in terms of strokes gained total. Now again, this is only going back to 2018, so this isn't a career look, but in terms of recent form at Augusta National, yes, Adam Scott is one of the lower. Mr. Par 67 has not been the best here either. Let's see, JT Poston, 0 for 1. So there's a look at some of your worst performers here at Augusta National. All right, I'm going to move on over to Microsoft Excel. We've got a lot that I would like to cover over here, so let me change the focus for you all. Now, what I have here, this is the comparison course kind of chart. However, I've done it a little bit unique for the Masters. So just for your all's info, when I look off over to the side, I'm going to be comparing these numbers against the full field course averages. So you see, I don't collect it in the main file because the Masters isn't a full field event. It's only 90-ish players. So I don't want to include the Masters when comparing against other full field courses. So I've done it on its own, in its own workbook here. So if you see me looking off to the side, I'm just comparing the numbers to the average here. Evening, P. Thanks for jumping in chat. We got a full crowd tonight. I love it. Ready for the first major of the year. Arguably the best tournament of the year. But thanks for jumping in chat. Hopefully you had a good Valero Texas Open and that you are ready for the tradition unlike any other. Now, again, as just a reminder, I will have one less year than what Fantasy National does because I am not including the Fall Masters. Not including the Fall Masters because the Masters is always played in April, so I'm trying to keep everything consistent. Took 11th in the $12 single entry on DK. Connors, Montgomery, Højgaard, Sam Stevens, very good. I was nowhere near Tyler Duncan. That was a very good selection on your end. Ben Martin, well, congratulations, P. That is 3 very big winners this week from the community. Joining my friend Dave, who had a top 10 on Ben Martin, outright wager, and joining Darnell, who took down a contest, first place in a contest over on Super Draft. So congratulations again, P and Darnell, especially for your all success this week. All right, so looking at some specific performance here at the Masters at Augusta National. Normally, I collect data for the top 30, but the top 30 would be a third of the entire field generally. So these numbers are representing the top 20 here at Augusta National. Yes, great work, everybody. I mean, I love it. I love to hear members of the community who are having success, and I say it all the time. Whatever you gather from me if you use any piece of advice, small, negligible, large, whatever, I'm thankful that you all come and join and watch and take something from the show. And when you have success, please let me know, so that way I can let the rest of the world, the community, know. But yes, I'm loving the fact that the community is having a lot of success. Loving it. All right, so driving distance is actually, it's a little bit more important than the average tour event, and it's gotten more important lately with the exception of 2021 when Hideki won. But you see the 35 flat, very high number here. Couple of high teens. The average is about an 8.7, so distance is something we're going to be looking at this week. Fairways, honestly, not very important, and that surprises me. Now, yes, these fairways are easier to hit, but I would have thought that there would be a premium to be put in fairways for Augusta National. The data is just not there. Fairways is about half of the number of the average full field course. And again, I'm looking at my comparison off to the side over here. But fairways are about half. Instead, all of this focus is in greens. Greens gained. And again, Hideki's year and the winner in 2017, that's escaping me. 2018 was Patrick Reed. Yeah, 2017 is escaping me off the top of my head. Those two are kind of some low outliers here. Otherwise, this is a very, very big number. The average on the PGA Tour is a 3.1. You see greens here at Augusta, 3.85. So a major emphasis in terms of greens gained. So we'll definitely be looking at several things on this tab throughout the week. We already looked at some scrambling. That's going to be important. Data-wise, driving distance is going to be something. And now greens is a heavy factor here. So quite a bit to look at throughout this week in terms of on the driving tab in Fantasy National. 2018 was Patty Reed. I don't know 2017. That's the one that has the very low outlier here in terms of greens. Hideki was in 2021. I don't know 2017's off the top of my head. Scoring, as you would expect, or at least my initial inclination when a course is difficult, I would tend to think you would want to look at bogey avoidance, meaning pars are good scores. And in fact, bogey avoidance here is about 50%. Sergio, good shout. P, thanks for that. So Sergio's year was a little bit of a low outlier in terms of greens gained. But bogey avoidance here, the average is a 2.6 and some change. This is a 3.2. So bogey avoidance is something we're going to be focused on this week for the Masters. And again, makes a lot of sense. Pars, for the most part, are good scores. Now, you do need to take advantage of the par 5s here, but pars being good scores, we're going to look at some bogey avoidance. Par 3s, only slightly more important than the average full field course, and they've actually been kind of mitigated as the years have gone on, with the exception, again, being 2021 and Hideki's year, I shall say, where the par 3s had a major emphasis. If there's a length of importance, it is actually the 2 from 150 to 175, but I'm not sure I want to put a whole lot of emphasis in 2 par 3s. I might have, anything that I do with par 3s will be totality, and this is just slightly, and I mean just slightly over PGA full field course average. Now, the par 4s, however, this is a massive number, a huge number. The average on the PGA Tour is a 4.4, which is still big. 4.8, this might be one of the biggest numbers there is. So the Wyndham's par 4s are slightly above 5, and that makes a lot of sense because the Sedgefield, Wyndham, is a par 70, so you have 2 more par 4s than you do at Augusta National. Let's see, other courses that rely heavily on par 4s, Quail Hollow, another very difficult long course, just like the Masters. So par 4 importance equal there in terms of importance. Let's see. And then the Sony has another totality in terms of par 4s being more than Augusta National. But again, the Sony's a par 70, so 2 more par 4s. Just a big emphasis on par 4s. Big emphasis on par 4s. And it's the 450 to 5s. This is more than double the importance of the full field course or the rest of the courses. So we're going to be looking at par 4s in totality, and we're really going to be looking at the 450 to 5s this week and who plays them well. Although, to be fair, they were a lot more important, early on in the 2010s. They're still generating a big number in terms of strokes gained, but nothing to the 4s like they were back in the 2010s. So, maybe not the dominant force that I was perhaps leading it on to be, but clearly, very, very clearly, you can see against all of the other ranges, we're going to be wanting to look at the 450 to 5 par 4s. So early on in your research this week, take a long look at players who have been very good at par 4s and par 4s from 450 to 500 yards. And then finally, par 5s, again, a big importance. This is about 30 to 40% more important. The average PGA Tour event, 1.7. This is a 2.15. I don't feel great about putting emphasis in the 0 to 500 because we haven't had a 0 to 500 yard par 5 in the past 5 spring Masters. And if we look at the 550 or the 500 to 600 split, it's pretty darn even. So I'm thinking it's just par 5s, but there is quite an importance on par 5s here. These are your 4 easiest holes. You've got to get birdies here. You've got to score here because the rest of the course, hold on to your butts, as they say. We do not get proximity and putting data. No strokes gained. That is all proprietary to Augusta National, to the Masters. So we don't get any of that. So really going to be focusing on these 3s, 4s, and 5s lengths, the driving tab, and the scoring tab. So there's a look at Augusta National specific against other full field courses. I know that's not a complete apples to apples comparison, but trying to give you just an idea of what is more important relative to Augusta than the average full field course. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you gained something from that. And I will show that again tomorrow in the Data Dive show a little bit. Now, we'll go to the, quote, traditional early look file, in which this is performance at Augusta National, just purely at Augusta National in the past 10 years. Normally I only go back to 5 years, which would be 2018. But with the Masters being so unique in that it is not a full field, major, all that stuff, I went ahead and just gathered every single year, especially since the course doesn't change, or we're not changing courses. We're not playing the Masters at Hilton Head or anything like that. Instead of like the U.S. Open, the PGA, and the Open Championship, those courses rotate. Since this course is the same, I feel more comfortable just gathering every single year's data and comparing it. So, Awaken, thanks for jumping in chat. Last 2 times Willie Z and AK's had high-end finishes. Looks like a good time to jump on when he's not chalk. Withdrew with illness, so he's back. Seems fine. Plays best in majors and hard courses. Okay. I believe it was Darnell that mentioned Siwoo earlier. I don't have a strong feeling towards or against any specific player at the moment. I have just kind of been gathering totality research in preparation for tonight. I will start my individual research tomorrow in prep for the Data Dive show, but I'll also be doing that over on Twitch. Subtle, or now not so subtle reminder that if you're interested in that, join me over on Twitch tomorrow morning. But okay, I can't say that it's a good or a bad. Seems legitimate, especially since he is the best average finish career of the players here at or in the field this week at the Masters. He's played it twice, averaged a top 5 finish, so sure. Okay. Let's see. In terms of players who have been playing well, Minwoo Lee last year, Taylor Gooch last year played it very well. Let's take a look at some greens in regulation and see who all might jump off the page. Of course, Will Zalatoris, Scotty Scheffler, your defending champ, Colin Morikawa. That's kind of his thing, his iron play. Jordan Spieth, you see 8 events, average a top 15 finish, only missed the cut 1 time in those 8 trips. Really likes Augusta National. He's been very good at the greens in regulation game. Cameron Champ, 2 for 2 here, average of an 18th finish. He's actually been very good at hitting greens here at Augusta National. That is not his thing. He's more in the driving distance, obviously. But anytime you get Cameron Champ with some solid non-driving statistics, it's worth a look. Rory, of course, looking for the career Grand Slam. JT loves it here, 6 for 6. Justin Rose. So there's a look at some of your top greens in regulation game performers, specifically here at Augusta National, going back to 2012. And 2012's an seemingly arbitrary cutoff. It's just how far back Fantasy National goes. Taking a look at birdies and bogeys, let's see. The players who have played the best here, actually, surprisingly to me, have been more in the birdies gained. However, John Rahm has been more bogey avoidance. Tony Finau has been more bogey avoidance. But you see Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth and Colin. Rory's about even. Let's see. JT's more bogeys, but Rose more birdies. I would have thought it had been more bogey avoidance, but it's not. It's actually birdies gained for your elite finishers here at the Masters. Now, data-wise, says that we need to focus on the bogey avoidance, and perhaps when we go through the prior leaderboards tomorrow night in the Data Dive show, perhaps the more consistent performers are in the bogey avoiders. Very well could be, but in terms of specific performance here at Augusta National, these players are all much better at gaining the birdies here at Augusta National. I'm going to skip the par 3s. Again, if anything, it's going to be in the totality, but 4.4, 4.5 down here from Hoagie seems to be the top. And if we just look at players who have averaged, we'll just do a top 25 just very quickly here. This is a 1.4. This is a 3.4 in the par 4s. Par 5s are off your screen, I know, but for the same players that average a top 25 finish, that's a 1.8. So the par 3s are clearly the lowest of the par holes. And par 4s are so very important. I mean, a 9.0 from Will Zalatoris, 5.4 from Spieth, who loves this place, 4 from Scotty, John Rahm, Rose. And again, look at the 450 to 5. Other than Justin Thomas, my goodness, look at this. Other than Justin Thomas, who is only 0.2 in terms of the negative, look at these numbers in the 450 to 5 par 4s. Some very high numbers, but they're not negative at all. Not, except for Justin Thomas. Then you have to come all the way down to Sepp Straka, and I have to get my big head out of the way. You have to come all the way down to Sepp Straka before you find another negative in terms of the 450 to 5. So, again, some more correlation, some more data to back up the 450 to 5 par 4 range being a very big emphasis this week, and where I'm going to at least start with my par 4 looks when researching. And then finally, par 5s. Just very important look here. I mean, you have to, nobody, all right, there's the best way I can put it. Nobody who has averaged a top 25 finish in their career since 2012. So nobody has averaged negative gaining strokes in par 5s. It is just what you have to do here at Augusta National. And you see the heavy propensity of green in the 550 to 6. Now, yes, Jordan Spieth, the 0 to 5 looks somewhat important, but look at all the 0.0s. I'll just give you a casual reminder that we haven't had a 0 to 500 par 5 the past 5 years here. So that clearly is a historical number. It's in the 550 to 6s for these par 5s. But total par 5s, every single player in the field this week who has averaged a top 25 finish is positive on strokes gained par 5 here at Augusta National. It's a huge deal. It is just a huge deal. All right, that is what I have for you all in terms of an initial research show for the Masters this week. I want to thank everybody for jumping in chat. It was a fun show. It was a great show. We had James and Darnell and AJ, that's 3, Joanne 4, P 5, Awaken 6. I love it. Feel free to jump in chat all the time. Feel free with any questions you have. I love to be able to answer your all's questions as you all prep for your lineups and your wagers. Again, a big congratulations first to Dave, my friend Dave, who hit a top 10 on Ben Martin at the Valero. Congratulations to P for top 15ing a single entry tournament over on DraftKings. And the biggest winner this week, the biggest congratulations goes to Darnell for winning a contest over on SuperDraft. So congratulations to all of you on your success this past weekend. It's great. It's been awesome. Love to hear that the community is winning, and I am grateful that you all come back, partake in whatever analysis that I am giving. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but you all come back week after week, and I appreciate it. I love what I do. Wouldn't be possible without you all coming back and supporting the channel, watching and listening, subscribing, liking the videos, commenting. Love it. I will be live tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, or daylight, I should say, 10:30 a.m. Eastern daylight over on Twitch. I'll be doing some heavy research, trying to find a pattern for the previous winners at the Masters, excluding the fall. I'm kind of taking that one out since it's unique in its own sense. But I'm going to try to find a pattern for the winners, and I'm going to be doing some baseball. So if you are interested in baseball, I've been doing a small little daily thing over on Twitter, a daily 3 up, 3 down. 3 players that I like, 3 players that I don't for DFS. So if you're interested in that, take a look over that on Twitter, and then I'll be doing some research for that tomorrow on Twitch as well. But we'll be covering the Masters because it's the Masters mainly. So thanks again to everybody who tuned in and watched, listened. Congratulations on all the success from the community this week. Love it, and I will look forward to seeing you hopefully tomorrow morning. So for all of the wagers that you made this past week at the Valero Texas Open, for all the DFS contests you entered this past week at the Valero Texas Open, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.